Welcome everyone to another episode of Leading from the Middle. I am Zann. Today we have a very special episode. Can women really have it all? Michelle Obama talked about this recently. She said, well, we can have it all, but maybe not in every season. I wonder how you feel about that. If you're a mother, kind of struggling to balance work, family, and self, this is the episode for you. I have a very special guest today, actually. It's Jiezhen. So she's a mother of two, right? She's been an entrepreneur. She's a leadership consultant. She's the founder of Mindful Mama Community. I think you have about 1,005 moms, right? Wow. And she also started this Mindful Leadership Collective in Harvard University. I mean, I've known her for about maybe 6 to 8 months now. She has such a vibrant life outside of work. I don't know how she does it. and I'm not even a mother. So today we're here to unpack how she balances all these things that she does, right? So, Jiezhen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about your season now, how would you describe it? What season of your life are you at?
I think that's a really good question, Zann, and thanks for the generous introduction. And I think every time I speak in one of these or do an interview, it's an opportunity for me to check in actually for myself, to ask myself, who am I now, right? Because we're always evolving, and I think even our introductions and the way we present ourselves to the world is always evolving. Sometimes we think we can keep, the same way that we introduce ourselves or we think about ourselves, but in reality, every day we are changing and evolving. How do we acknowledge that and bring that and acknowledge that in the season that we're in? So if I had to think about the season of life that I'm in right now, I think I actually am in the season of birthing this new version of myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think, with I'm a mother of two, as you mentioned. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter, Juniper. She just turned 4.5 yesterday. It's like this age when half birthdays are a big deal, And my son Jasper is almost 1.5. So he's 17 months tomorrow. So two young children. I guess when I reflect on the last few years, a big part of my season of life has been motherhood. And when I think about motherhood, it's not this constant experience that doesn't change, but it's very dynamic, right? And I think the last probably 4 or 5 years has been in this season of, expecting my children, birthing my children, and in these early days of having the babies and little ones running around. And I think as I said, and my husband and I decided, I think 2 feels really good for us. And so now that as I think I'm kind of wrapping up the season of expecting and, birthing children, I'm also thinking about who am I next, right? What is next for me? And not just, birthing another human being, but birthing my version of myself that has fundamentally transformed and evolved in this season of life.
Oh my gosh. Rebirthing, almost like reinventing yourself. How do you define who you are in terms of identity? And having known you for a while now, I noticed that you try to maintain quite a strong identity of self. Not just being a mom, not just being a career woman, right? How did this begin? Because I know a lot of friends who are moms. They tell me, I have no life anymore, babe. And I don't see them unless I go to the house and take care of the children. Yeah, but you have such a life with your husband, Gerald, right? Tell me a little bit about the genesis. I bet these kind of discussions started a while back.
Yeah.
You married Jared.
Definitely. And I think this started, when Jared and I think were first dating and things were becoming more serious. And, we knew we weren't ready to have kids yet. We were still quite young at that time. But I think what Jared and I have always aligned on is the importance of living life intentionally and consciously. And we've been really, intentional, for lack of a better word, on how we've shaped our relationship, how we've shaped our marriage, how we shaped our family, and how we shaped our life. So one thing that was very important to us as we started having the conversation around children and becoming parents is that we didn't want to lose ourselves in becoming parents, which we've seen some of our friends, it's hard. You have so many competing priorities, and if you don't get clear on what is really important, you can lose a lot of things that matter to you along the way. And I think that inherently sometimes breeds a lot of resentment, whether it's for yourself or your partner or your children, exhaustion, because you feel like your cup is not being filled.
Exactly.
And I think we saw that, but the process of doing that was a lot more challenging than maybe we expected, because my biggest challenge in motherhood has actually been the identity shift. So I guess you look at it now, it's like, oh yeah, but I figured out some sense of what it looks like right now. But I mean, it was really hard. Like, I don't think for me, the taking care of the baby was necessarily the hardest part of becoming a mom. Juniper has been a really sweet girl, and was, a wonderful baby, obviously, not without its challenges. And, the fact that a human being is completely reliant on you for their every need, it feels like a lot. But at the same time, I think, that stuff we can learn. It's a skill to learn how to change a diaper or to feed, feed a baby. But I think the hardest thing for me was actually the identity shift. Like, who am I now? Like, what matters to me? What is fundamentally shifting, and how does my life need to reflect that right now? So for me and Jared, it's been a constant ongoing conversation on what it looks like. And I think it's so important to make sure that, I guess, when you do embark on this journey of parenthood, if you're doing it with someone else, to make sure that you're on the same page and aligned. It's not going to be 50-50. There's going to be things that, are biologically limiting. Like, Jared's like, oh my God, if only I could feed the baby at the breastfeeding, then you wouldn't have to, and taking the load off your partner might look different for different seasons as well. But I think we sat down and we said, what does a full life look like? And I think, going back to your earlier point on Michelle Obama saying, maybe women can't have it all, and is deciding what it looks like. Yeah. What was it? What the quote that you said?
You can't have it all in every season. You might have your career in certain, like, one decade, and then the next decade is not about your career anymore.
Yeah. And I think I've heard versions of that, right? Michelle Obama, I think Sheryl Sandberg also said, like, you can have it all, but not all at once. Yeah. And I remember when I heard that before I became a mom, okay? And I was, like, very ambitious, very driven, like, loved the work that I was doing. I was like, what? I refuse to accept that, right? And there was this sense of, like, what do you mean we cannot have it all? And obviously, I also took into consideration that these were actual moms that had walked the path, and they had lived experience that I didn't have in motherhood at that time. But I said, there must be another way to think about this, right? And I don't think what they're saying is fundamentally incorrect, but perhaps it's reframing in a way, for me, that's less... I think less about diminishing ourselves and becoming more of ourselves. So for me, and for us, for me and Jared, it was a lot about, I guess, deciding what that all meant. And Jared said something when I was kind of going through this season of, who am I? Like, what is all? Who can really have it all right now? And Jared said something that will always stay with me, and it's something that I come back to a lot, and we remind ourselves of. And he said, maybe you can have it all, right? But it's defining and deciding what all means for you right now. And right now doesn't mean the season, because even the season of motherhood is like, honestly, it's forever. Long, right? Wherever the kid longs, you have a child, it's long, and there's different chapters to each season as well. And even this week, like this season, and women, we live our life in cycles, right? Even, like, in your own cycle, what you need today is going to be different sometimes from what you need tomorrow. And being very attuned to that, and being present. And I think that's what the whole piece about being mindful is about. It's being able to be really aware and mindful of who you are right now, what support you need, how to engage the support you need, how to ask for the things that you want, and to take actions and steps to make that happen. But yeah, so having it all, I think I think we can have it all if we can define, and we are very clear about what it means to have it all. And then to have the clarity to decide what it is and figure it out, and then the courage to live it. And that's what I do a lot with, so you mentioned that I have been an entrepreneur. I started this body of work called the Possibility Playbook. And that's what a lot of what I do with my coaching clients there is to help them figure out what does this all look like, right? What is it? What does the fullest life look like? And how do I create that in this current season that I'm in, with all the things that are on my plate? Yeah. What does that look like? And, in our work, we talk about the importance of living life by design and not by just default and autopilot, and that conscious choice, right? That's that conscious leadership, not just for the work that we do out in the world, but for our lives, for our partners, for our families, for our children. that I think really shape the way we live and the way we experience whatever season of life we're in.
Yeah, oh my gosh, as I'm listening to you, Jiezhen, for the listeners who have not known Jiezhen yet, right? I've known her for like maybe 8 months, and she has brought me into so many possibilities already. She's always sending me, hey, how about this event, right? How about joining this community? And I myself have benefited from possibilities. And I think it's the mindset that you're embodying, right?
Yeah.
Like life is short. We want to experience a wonderful life. And what does that mean in terms of for yourself, for the partnership you have with Jared, and for the entire family together? I'm sure at times it will be hard to balance things. And you mentioned this keyword prioritizing, right? What kind of mechanisms or even rituals that you might have with your family that helps you to anchor yourself?
Okay, such a good question. And Jared and I have thought a lot about this, right? Because just like, in leadership coaching consulting, we talk about leadership practices, right? I think it's about how you cultivate that practice that shapes the life and the life you want to have and the person you want to become, or that you are becoming. And I think a lot of it is not just becoming the best version of yourself, but a fuller version of yourself, where you embrace the good, the bad, everything in between, the good days, the bad days, and knowing how to savor, especially those moments in between. I think is honestly one of the biggest practices, and that's been one of my biggest practices this year. Is actually the art of savoring. And this is something that I decided is one of my key words for this year, and that's something we actually do as a family. So I think every year, at the end of the year, we do a family reflection together. So it started actually just with me and Jared. We use this tool called Year Compass. Have you?
Oh yes, I have.
Yeah, so it started with me and Jared, and now literally my whole family does it together. Like my siblings, so we all around holiday season when we usually get back together. My siblings live all over the world, right? So and in the years that we haven't been physically together, we still all do it together. So and we're doing it for as long as Jared and I have been married. It's 8 years now. So my parents do a abbreviated version because they say it's very long, but they still want to be there because they still want to know what we're doing, even though they don't want to fill the whole book. But so I think there's rituals we do annually. So Year Compass is one of them. We also create vision boards around Chinese. And obviously, this sounds like a lot. Okay, I know people are like, oh my God, I don't have, this is a lot to do. But you decide what you want to bring into your family, right? It's like what works. But I think deciding what your family practices are can set the foundation. And Jared and I knew early on, like I said, we wanted to live a full life, right? Not just as a couple, but also with our children. So making sure that we don't stop traveling just because we have kids, or we don't stop going for events that inspire us because we have children. We either find a way to bring them along. Like last week we brought them on Ocean X, which was so fun, and they love that. Or we bring them for conferences or events that we can bring them to. And that's part of our larger family vision that we have created. And so around Christmas or end of year, we do our Year Compass. Around Chinese New Year, we actually do a vision board, Lunar New Year, which I think is the energetic start to the new year. And Juniper, she was about 2 or 3 actually, she was hanging around when we were doing the vision board. We didn't think she would actually want to do it, but she said, oh no, I want to make a vision board. So she made her own vision board, and she was like 2 or 3 at that point. We're like, does she get this? But if she put a lot of things she put in the vision board also came true. And she put xiaolong baos, she put some disco ball because she really likes dancing, and then and doing that together as a family. Your kids, it's not what you say, it's what you do. The actions that they see us doing really help shift the way in which they see what is possible too. And something that a newer practice, and these are things that Jared and I have done for a few years now, which I think form the foundation of a lot of our year. So we also know what each other is working on, right? Like what are priorities? We talk about priorities. Helping people around you know what your priorities are is actually one big piece of the puzzle. In getting the support, but also knowing where your boundaries are, right? If they know that, hey, I'm working on this right now, I can't meet every Friday because this is something I've committed to doing this thing, right? People get it. But if people don't know what you're working on, it's very hard for them to support you. So those are our annual kind of rhythms. There's things that we do.
Friday.
Yes, Flourishing Fridays. So we just did that actually before coming here. So Jared and I managed to sneak in a lunch date today, which is nice. And we'll just ask, so this has evolved through the years of we're dating and married to now, but now our couple connection time, I guess, looks like these weekly check-ins. So ever since we became parents, we decided that it couldn't just be, and the regular date nights that we have, we do this, but every Friday, regardless of whether we have time to go on a date night or we're just in the car or walking somewhere, today we managed to have lunch together. We ask ourselves, or we ask each other, like, how are you flourishing this week?
Wow.
And that's
Thoughtful question.
yeah. So we generally ask each other, how are you flourishing this week? How can I support you to flourish in the coming week? And then also, what are you looking forward to? I think as parents, sometimes can be very like firefighting in the moment, like, logistically figuring out what's going on, and being able to support each other to flourish was a big piece of I think not just knowing what is supporting the other person, but it's also internal time to check in with ourselves. And we have it on the calendar, so it's recurring every Friday afternoon usually. But we're quite flexible as like when in the afternoon it happens.
Wow. So I'm hearing a very strong alignment with Jared on what kind of life you want. Yeah. And his support. And there's and there are little rituals that you keep, whether it's a weekly or yearly rituals. And you're so inclusive with the children. I know you bring them to meetings sometimes. Right. Or you might go to even like your yachts, right? They will also be there, right, with adults, and you're very inclusive like that. What would you say to moms? Like, what advice would you give to some moms who are struggling to carve out time for themselves? So it's just work and then being a mom, and they're kind of under, and they have lost their sense of identity, or there's no me anymore. I don't meet my friends. I don't go out. Yeah, I'm just like a full-time mom and a full-time career.
Yeah. Yeah, I've coached a lot of women actually through this. And I would say a lot of the women I work with are actually very high achieving, driven women who, become moms and they're like, I don't know who I am anymore, right? And there is that loss sometimes, that feeling of a loss of identity. And I felt that too, a loss of a sense of self. But in that loss, it's also an opportunity to redefine, recreate, right? Reimagine who you can be. So I say that, it's hard. And then it's also this opportunity to elevate and to step out, to birth this new version of ourselves, right? And I think, so I was just, funnily enough, talking to a mom this morning about how to find more space for herself, right? And even in the conversations, everything she shared was like, I talked about her kid first, everything else. And then they almost put themselves last. And I think the main lesson that I've learned and seen is that we are not doing we're doing our children honestly a disservice by trying to be the martyr. They need a mother, not a martyr, right? And I feel like
What
sometimes
is the difference between a martyr and a mother?
yeah, so a martyr is almost like self-sacrificial to the point that you completely, you put your children 100% first and then yourself last. But what message are we sending to our children, to our partners, to the people around us by doing that, right? One of my teachers, and he's a Zen master, Chikna, said that the biggest gift and the best gift a parent can give their child is their own happiness. And I think we forget that a lot of the time, and we try to give our children everything, try to give them all the opportunities, all the experiences. But if we do that at the cost of, I think, our own self-worth, our identity, our well-being, that becomes a lot of exhaustion. That's burnout, exhaustion, resentment. That's when it breeds. And it doesn't mean that you have to go on like, some retreat every month for yourself or like go to Thai every week. But this morning, I was just telling this mom, if you can just take 5 minutes, right, each day, have someone just be with the child for 5 minutes, go take your coffee outside of the house or something and just sit with yourself, breathe, reflect. It doesn't have to be a ton of time, right? But it's the act of showing yourself that you matter. That's how we teach our kids that they matter. Because if we just keep putting other people above ourselves, the kids are going to say, oh, I'm just going to do that. That's how we treat others, right? That's the best way to do it. But I think having it all is really coming back to what matters, right? If you want to spend this season being 100% of your kid, and that's your having all, that's amazing, right? But you need to decide that, have that clarity, and then the courage to go and do it. And if you decide that, oh, actually right now I want to have my career and I want to be present for my kids. It doesn't have to be a trade-off, right? It can, we talk about not either or, but both and. I think that's what having it all is what is my both and? How do I, you know, have my career, make sure that my relationships are thriving, making sure that I take time for my own health and well-being, and to be present with my family. But defining what that is and having the clarity to figure it out and, define clearly what that looks like for right now, because it might evolve and it's probably going to evolve, and then the courage to live it. I think that's what it means to have it all.
I think courage to live it is the key answer.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot of moms wanting, what if I could do this? What if I could do that? Right?
Yeah.
Then they will come back to earth and say, no, but my child needs me.
Exactly. So the courage, that's why we coach, right? Because it's the accountability to the things that you want to do, that sometimes you just, it's the first thing to go when life gets full and you just deprioritize yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from a place of selfishness, but, self-sufficiency, right? To know that if I fill my cup, I can be more present. I can be more present and whole and more full for the people around me.
Wow, I'm look forward to your next rebirth. Right, it's constant because your kids will go through seasons themselves.
Yes, yeah.
Like primary school, and then your identity will shift along. Maybe you have more time, stuff like that, right? So it's been lovely talking to you,
Yes,
Jiezhen.
thank you for having me.
This is not enough, so we have to talk more because I want to hear more about how you started Possibility Playbook, right? So let's zoom into that in maybe the next podcast.
Yes.
Right. So if you're listening today and you have a lot of questions for Jiezhen, I know, wow, if I was a mom, I would have a lot of questions for her. Comment down below and do connect with us on Instagram or on LinkedIn. We're there. So see you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.